Hey, y'all, welcome to Challenge Accepted. I am Frank, and I'm joined by Thomas.
Good morning, everybody.
Today, we are talking about the premiere of The Mandalorian Season 3.
This is the way.
This is the way. I think we're off to a pretty hot start right now. I know that there's been some mixed reviews, and a lot of that I think is just because I actually was just reading an article a little bit about it, how basically, or I saw headlines for it. Andor kind of might have ruined some things because Andor is like this really complex Ozark level story. So returning back to a
Top
more,
tier.
yeah, more of a light casual version of that might not be super appealing right now. I
Oh,
personally think that this is more Star Warsy than we're used to out of Mando, and so like that part leaned into it. Like we saw a lot of small characters. Like normally we
yeah.
have just Grogu, but now we have a lot more of these little characters walking around in this one. A lot more new puppeting, and so I think for some
Yes.
of the like people that liked Mandalorian because it wasn't too Star Warsy, this was a very Star Wars episode. I think so, but
Yeah.
I personally really liked it myself.
Man, I don't know what these people are talking about. My hype
Yeah,
level couldn't be higher to have Mando back.
yeah,
Oh my God, I was so pumped. And you're right. It totally feels Star Warsy, I guess. Like it
yeah.
feels like one of the original movies in a way with, you're right, with all the puppets and the aliens and then the crazy action, then back down to silliness, then back down to serious. I don't know what people are talking about. I was so high on this episode. Yeah, I can't wait to talk about it.
I think what it did is it kind of like ramped up in every corner. So like you're saying with the silliness. If you think of silliness from the first season, it's maybe the fact that the Jawas broke open the egg from the big rhino and started eating out of it. That's a real quick
Right.
part. In comparison to that scene in this thing where he's sitting in that little small garage talking to the guys for a
hmm
while. Like so it's a little bit more silliness.
hmm
And then if we're talking about like in every little corner, so like with the creature creation in the first one, it's like okay, we have the big things that the guy's riding on, some things
hmm
like that. In this one, we have an entire town. Navarro, boy, they got upgraded. Like this,
Oh yeah.
we go from a dusty town, now we're in a kind of a modern city, which I liked because it makes sense for how this is a western and where you're starting to evolve. But
hmm
I think that's something that people are just gonna. It's a bit of a shock for people, but I mean honestly, this thing is a very good episode. Again, like I myself loved it, but I try to be objective to see why people aren't happy with it, and I
Sure.
think it's a lot more Star Warsy. I think it's the best way to put it, really.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and that might be a big transition for people, but I just taking it for what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, it's just so great to have Mando. He's such an awesome character,
He really is.
and this relationship we have built or seen him built with Grogu is so just pure, and it's just so. I mean, we were getting to see two different versions pretty much in the same week of Papa Pedro and how he can play two different kinds of dads.
Yeah,
And it's crazy. Like they're both badass in their own right. They're
yeah.
both strong as hell. But the way like this version of Papa Pedro is way more loving. Like he's cuddly with Grogu. I watched Boba Fett, basically Mandalorian 2.5, in preparation for this episode, and he's hugging Grogu
Yeah.
and he's like shielding him away from debris as it's flying. He's like so much more like this is my child, where
Mm-hmm.
in The Last of Us, he's more of a reluctant dad, and
Yeah.
I just, man, he's so dynamic. Give me all the Pedro. Is there another show he can be in? Because I'd watch that too.
I
I'm
need to
ready
watch
for that one.
Narcos because I guess he's in Narcos Mexico or something
Oh,
like that.
dude,
I haven't seen that
Narcos.
yet.
Oh, he's so good. Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, yeah, I love Pedro, man.
yeah,
can't
he's
get,
so good.
can't say enough good things. He's awesome at that too.
Yeah. All right, man. You're gonna be running our rundown this time.
Let's run it down. Yeah. We're doing 5 minutes this time, right? Because I always go over by 3 minutes.
Oh man.
No,
All
we'll
right,
try our
we'll
best to
see.
stick to
We'll see
two.
if the hourglass is forgiving to you.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
All right, here we go.
All
One,
right.
two, three,
So,
go.
oh, one, two, three. Okay. So we start off with the armor working on a new helmet. Then, we see that it's a small helmet. She walks out of this cave. We see a bunch of Mandalorian from the Watch that we had not seen before. All different kinds of colorful armor. There's a kid standing in the water. At first, I was like, is this Pedro? Is this a
Yeah.
flashback? Whatever. But it seems like to be just some random kid. She puts the helmet on. They say this creed while they are saying the creed, this turtle alligator pops out of the water and basically attacks them, disrupting the final sentence in the creed. So, full on battle with all the Mandalorian and the turtle alligator, which was so sick. They are starting to lose. Shots fired. Mando's ship comes in. He saves the day. He basically has another conversation with the armor talking about redemption. Then Din Djarin and Grogu go to Navarro. We see Greef Karga, and he's asking him about the droid from season 1, IG-11. He wants to restore him. There's some antics that go on there, and full-on battle in space between these pirates that they killed earlier, Greef Karga and Mando. Awesome battle through the asteroid fields. We then go to the last planet, which I'm trying to think of what the planet's name is right now. I can't think of it off the top of my head. They go to a Mandalorian castle.
Yeah, it's Calivella.
Oh yeah, Calivella. Yeah, we see that Bo-Katan is there. She's pretty distraught. It seems like she's just lost everything. She asks him if he still has the Darksaber. He says yes. She says, "Are you still on this fool's errand, basically, to go redeem yourself in the waters of Mandalore?" He's like, 100%. She's like, "That's dumb." And then he walks off, and that's the end of the episode.
All right, perfect. I didn't rush you. You were over by a few seconds, so I didn't want to
Oh, I can never do anything 2 minutes, dude. I like want to talk too much about all this awesome stuff.
It was a really good paced episode too, by the way. Like they went boom, boom, boom pretty well. Let's start with the baptism. I think this is basically broken down into 4 sections. Let's start with this ritual to bring in a new Mando.
That's a good way to put it. You're right. I didn't think about it that way.
Because they force them to stand in the water, and then even to like cleanse your sins, you go back to water. Something to do with the water in the Mandalorians. You know?
Oh yeah, I didn't even think about it that way, but you're totally right.
Yeah. The turtle gator, which it reminds me so much of like Avatar: The Last Airbender, because every animal is 2 animals put together.
Right. Yeah.
And the way they're fighting it, I mean, I can't believe that this creature almost took out the Watch. In comparison, like they almost shattered Mandalore, and this turtle gator almost got him or whatever. That was a pretty awesome fight, though. I did really like the fight because we saw it highlighted moments for characters. It showed Jon Favreau's character being able to like stand in between a kid and a gator.
Yeah, Paz Vizsla, I think, is his character.
Yeah,
or Paz Vizsla.
And then it showed that you're gonna know the names for all these characters, and I don't know them. It showed the forger. I don't remember her name.
Yeah, I think she's called the armor. I don't know if she has a name beyond that. Yeah, okay. But that's all I know.
The armor. Oh, there it is. Yeah, the armor played by Emily Swallow. It was just run out there and grab somebody who was getting hurt and stuff like that. So like it shows who these characters are behind the helmet in this one battle. Right. I like that a lot, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. Like she runs in to go save somebody who's okay. Let me ask you this: you know when they're shooting the grappling hooks in there, did you think this is automatically a dumb idea?
Okay, here's the thing.
Okay, yeah.
So just everybody, guys, by the way, you guys, Wednesday nights we're doing a discussion on Twitter Spaces. Please follow CA Podcast Live so you guys can follow in on that discussion. It was phenomenal. I came into the second half and had a lot of fun with Joey and stuff like that.
Yeah, that was a ton of fun. Thanks to everybody that came out because, it was just a good time just conversing about the episode.
Well, this came up, like the idea of like harpooning is better. I thought it was a good idea because you harpoon a whale. I don't think they knew that this thing was going to do a death spiral. If it didn't do that
right.
death spin, things would have been fine. That spin screwed them over. But like,
totally.
But that's how you like the big animals in history, in our history. You've done that. You spear elephants, you spear whales. Like that's kind of the technique, and you wear them down by pulling them.
Taut to the ground.
Yeah. But this guy's got a cool spin move that they used, and that cleaned it up.
They didn't do their research on the wildlife on that planet.
No, they just like hang out in this pond and let's not worry about piranhas or giant alligators. Yeah.
Right. But yeah, that was a little funny to me. I mean, the action was badass. The flamethrowers are going, they're jetpacking, flying over. I was just wondering if they didn't why they didn't have maybe some rockets or something. But I loved it. I can't say
because
anything.
Normally they have the rockets with the jetpacks. Like we see Boba like lean forward and like boom.
Right. And I think we could chalk it up to maybe at the ceremony you don't bring your full on. Arsenal and everything.
Yeah.
So maybe that was the case, but it still is badass because at the end of the day, Din Djarin comes in and shoots him with the Naboo fighter.
That
And
Naboo,
just look,
I was gonna bring it too for this recording. Shit, I forgot about it. Because I got the toys. I'll bring it in for the next one. It's got the sound effects on it too, like pew pew pew. I love me a Naboo starfighter. That is the dopest ship. Like that one and General Grievous's ship. They were like, let's just make hot rods in space, and they did.
Yeah.
It's so freaking cool looking.
it is. I like how, it's still kind of all falling apart. It's not
Yeah.
completely all done up yet. And I like that there's this one faded strip of yellow on there.
I know, me too.
Yeah,
And
that's
the
like
fact
such a
that
nice
it is
detail.
missing parts is more hot rod to me because, like, my grandfather he used to build hot rods a lot, and like a lot of times they'll leave the hood off of it just so you could like show it off a little more, the engine inside.
Sweet.
It kind of
Yeah.
has that vibe of like, yeah, look what's underneath the hood kind of thing. I love that.
Yeah, I always wondered, why don't people make like clear? I mean, well, I haven't seen a lot of this. Why aren't there clear hoods for people who like mod their engines?
You know what? Yeah, I'm sure that there's now, especially with the new technology that we have with new fiberglass or whatever. I'm sure that's a thing that could happen.
I'm just saying that'd be a cool idea. But the ships in this continue to be awesome. Even later on, when the pirates are chasing Mando down, those ships were pretty cool too. I forgot what they're called. I think they're like A-wings or something. It was like the ships they used in Hoth to basically wrap up the AT-AT. It kind of looked like that, but a pirated version, and it was badass.
And the main ship that the pirates are flying looked like it was for ramming speeds, man. That thing was so freaking cool looking. Those pirates, we'll have to talk about those because, like, okay, so let's talk about the pirate that everybody knows. Everybody knows Hondo Anaka from Clone Wars and from Rebels. And I pulled up the Wikipedia page. You guys check those out. And because I was like, is he alive during this time or something like that? Yes, he's alive during this time. Matter of fact, he helped all the way through the Resistance for the First Order. So he's alive during all of Star Wars, basically.
Wow.
And
okay.
yeah. And I really like his character in Clone Wars. I haven't watched Rebels. I will be soon, trust me. But
I've already started episode 1 now.
Did you? Yeah, we have to now. It's research.
Yeah.
Actually, that might be something we should talk about in Challenge Accepted.
We will.
Just do like a review of what's going on in Rebels. So he's kind of like this like pirate, almost Robin Hood character. I like how he helps the clones. I like how he kind of steps in to help every so often. You see him helping poor villages. And I think the reason that they didn't use specifically him for this is because they want these guys to be just bad guys. They don't want them to have a redeeming factor. And he's too much of a nice guy. So I think that's the case. Or maybe he'll pop up later on and take over once that big Christmas tree guy dies.
Go. Which I love that
Shard.
character. Yeah, Gorian Shard. It was cool. Like he reminded me of a Pirates of the Caribbean mixed with Swamp Thing.
Swamp Thing, yeah.
Yeah.
I got like real '80s Goonies vibe to me. Like this is the kind of guy I would see in the '80s movie, which is what we wanted out of Star Wars. What we're asking for.
Exactly, which is kind of goes back to what we were saying in the beginning. It feels very Star Wars. Even with the little droids that were behind Grief Karga holding up his robe, and they're like hopping down the stairs, and I was like, all these details are just so nice. It just feels so true to the Star Wars world, and I think that's something that they could do this season as opposed to the earlier seasons when they were just stuck to stagecraft.
Actually, this is a big departure from the heavy use of stagecraft in this one. I'm sure it is still there for this town. Matter of fact, I was just watching them doing some behind the scenes on how they film like the riding on the bikes and stuff like that. Pretty amazing. You know what's driving me nuts right now is Jonathan's down at Disneyland, so he's in the Star Wars Galaxy's
Oh, there
Edge.
you go. He's at Galaxy's Edge. Yeah.
He keeps sending me pictures, and I'm like, oh, bro, I just want to be there.
Have
And
you ever gone?
Mando's there now, and he's like, he's doing like, he's got a baby Grogu with him, and Grogu's fully puppeted, so he like does like the to the kids, like, oh, I want to be there so bad.
Yeah. Have you ever been to Galaxy's Edge?
Not yet.
Dude, okay, we got to go sometime. You're right. They have all of that stuff. I was lucky enough to go with somebody who worked at one of the Disney properties. Cool. And so we got to do the build your own your own lightsaber. Dude, that was so cool. It was so awesome. And at the end, after you assemble everything, you get to turn it on and everybody holds up their lightsabers. And I felt like how I was looking at this little kid who was probably 6 years old, and they're holding up their holding up their lightsaber. And I was like, yes, dude, that's how I feel right now. Because it was just so cool. And yeah, it's an amazing experience. All the details there is cool. The Coke bottles are in whatever the Star Wars writing is. It's
Think
just
how
like
impossible that is. To ask Coke, hey, can you make unique bottles without English on them. Like that's so
Right.
impossible, but Disney makes it happen. That's
Yeah,
so
exactly. People can hate on Disney, but that is cool as hell, and
cool.
that's
Yeah.
power that Disney has. I'm all for that. Yeah, it was. Oh man, it's dope. It was really dope.
No, man.
So we get to
Um,
see Grief Karg again, though. That was pretty cool.
yeah.
I love that character.
Yeah.
I love Carl Weathers too, but I mean
Carl
that was
Weathers, yeah, that's the thing is
yeah.
I love Carl Weathers, so he could play anybody and I'd be happy with it.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of Creed coming out, uh,
Right.
yeah, he's so dope, and to see that he's now like elevated his status from that first season when
Not
he
just
kind of like
magistrate, high magistrate.
right, and I like how in the first season we saw him basically his office was in a bar, which that's
Yeah.
just feels like such a used car dealership kind of thing, and and then now he's running this entire town and he's offering Mando like, hey, you could stay here,
Right.
all kinds of things like that, and we know
You
it's
could be the
been
marshal.
it's
Yeah.
at least been 2 years, so 2 years of Navarro being built up, and boy, it sure is built up, and now it's almost got like an Andor vibe to me. I was like, I'm sorry, not Andor. God, what's the place that Leia's from? Princess Leia.
Yeah, shoot. I'm blanking on that too, and I wanted to think about it when you were saying it because it does look like that,
Doesn't it?
from
Yeah.
what we saw in Boba Fett. And I don't know,
Yeah.
I don't know why my mind's blanking on it too, but it totally looks like that city.
It'll
that
come
we
to
saw
me
in
and I'll
Boba Fett.
shout it later on as in excitement.
I know. Yeah,
Which,
We're getting
anyways,
all of
so it
our
has a vibe,
properties
which
mixed
kind of
up
makes
here.
sense because it's where Cara Dune was from.
right.
So maybe if she helped in the building of the town, she was like, oh, you know what? I really like this from my hometown that no longer exists.
True.
So,
Yeah. How did you feel about them handling the Cara Dune of it all?
I think it was the best way they could have done it, honestly. Like, yeah, she's off to bigger, better things, so that the character has respect she deserves while the actress is stepped away, pushed away, I guess. But
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
I
what are
agree.
you gonna
It
do,
was.
you know?
I was at least acknowledging it. I just hate it when shows or movies, an actor leaves and then they don't even address it.
True.
Like that bothers me sometimes. So, like, I appreciated even that one line is good enough for me to be like, okay, cool. They addressed it. She's off doing something. Now my mind doesn't have to be thinking constantly like, where is it? Where is she? Where is she?
It's funny because now I wanted to make sure to bring things up. I'm like, did I already say this before? And the recording's like, no, I said it last night in the discussion. So, Paul Sung-Hung Lee, I'll throw this out for the people who didn't listen to the discussion. Paul Sung-Hung Lee has been seen in some footage for like trailers or whatever, wearing the Rangers uniform, and it's now being rumored that he is going to be leading the Rangers in a Rangers series, which originally was going to be led by Cara Dune. So, but now it's going to be Paul Sung-Hung Lee by this rumor. When
I'm-
put out there, Paul, because he's such a dope badass, basically retweeted it with one of his gifs from Kim's Convenience of him being like, I don't know, that thing. Which, of course, lit up his comment section like, what? You can't just do that to us. And he's just been playing along. He is one of the coolest people I could think of.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, if anybody is going to take over that spot, they picked the right guy.
Yes.
He's so good. I mean, even in season 1, like, he's kind of been the Jimmy Woo of Star Wars shows.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So he keeps popping up here, and he's kind of intermingling. Well, I guess it's mainly Mandalorian, but like, still, I'm so happy to have him in the Star Wars universe. If he's the guy in charge, oh, it'd be so sweet. I'm
So,
on board with that.
My parents have never watched Mandalorian, so I was like, you guys should watch Mandalorian. I think you'll like it because it's basically a Western in space. And when I was over there watching it with them, and the X-Wings came up, the episode where the X-Wings come up, those two are in them. I was like, okay, so it's important to know that guy right there, it's Dave Filoni. He's the reason all this exists. And the other guy is Paul Sung-Hung Lee. He's going to be really important in the future. Like, those two guys are huge right now. And in this scene, they just look like a couple X-Wing fighters. But no, they're both really big actors and characters. It is just Of course, Dave Filoni. I like how Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau put themselves in their universes. I love that.
That's awesome. Cool. Yeah, I mean, dude, some of the best creators do, right? And that is it's like a fun little Easter egg. Speaking of putting creators in the universe, we got a little hint at IG-11 possibly coming back.
Yes.
And we know that in season 1, IG-11 was voiced by Taika Waititi, one of my favorite directors all the time, even though, we know how I feel about Thor: Love and Thunder.
He voiced him in this episode, too. He came back to voice him in this episode.
Okay, yes. And I was like, that's his voice. Now, what's interesting is I don't know how everybody else feels. This is more of a question for the audience, but it's like, how does everybody feel about him coming back? I as much as I love Taika and as much as I would love to have him back in The Mandalorian, I almost feel like it would diminish what happened at the end of season 1 with him sacrificing himself. So it's just weird because I love Taika. I'm down for him and everything. I just almost don't want IG-11 coming back in the same way because it meant, like, his death meant something.
Yeah, and death needs to mean things, both in Star Wars and Marvel. It's been a problem they've had in the past, and so, like, for Marvel, for example, how many times did we see Loki die? We felt the pain every time, to the point where when he finally did die, we're like, I don't trust it. Sure,
Right, and he's
here
back
comes
again.
the Loki series.
Yeah,
Exactly. So we have that, but also there is the question to why does this matter? Because they're going to replace his memory chip now, which basically loses the value he had in the first place of being like the only droid that Mando trusts. So that's kind of in question right now. We're not entirely sure what that means.
right.
So we're not sure why that's the case, why that's so important now. But I think we're going to get him back. But the fact that he's not going to have memory could lead to some really interesting storytelling, maybe of like Data from Star Trek Next Generation. Oh, you don't know Star Trek. Like somebody trying to figure out what humanity or what it is to be a good guy again. So we get to experience humanity through another character.
Yeah, that's cool. Like if they do that, that makes sense, and it's almost like a different person inside the same body, but which is still kind of being rebuilt.
Yeah.
But I'm okay with that. I just liked, they were offering so much. What is it? The Unzelans, who were hilarious. It's broke, we broke, or whatever. I love those characters are hilarious. So, they were saying we have all these other droids.
Was so good. Just gotta throw that out there. Grogu hugging on one was like, oh, they are selling merch. That's what that's for.
Dude, and I'm buying it. Like, keep coming. I don't even have kids, and I want to buy all that stuff.
Yeah.
So, just super cute. But they were saying we have a bunch of other droids you can buy or get. Why this one? And he's like, well, he's my friend. And I kind of like that sentiment again, but I'm like, why doesn't he? If they're saying they have a droid, that you can use who's probably just as badass, like why not? I don't know. It seemed to me that was like my only kind of gripe in this episode where I'm like, I don't really want him to have IG-11 or like fight to get IG-11 back for, I don't know, kind of arbitrary reasons.
Zero situation. Yeah. I mean, even I thought it was kind of funny too, because like we just saw when you guys were being attacked by IG-11 who went to default programming, a different droid killed him. Bring that droid.
Yeah, exactly.
You want a loyal droid, that one killed a droid for you.
Right. Without question, too. It didn't ask on command. It was just like, all right, he's dead. Boom, bust over. Yeah. Squish.
I think a lot of this is, and that brings up a whole other point. A lot of this is wanting to bring Taika Waititi. You're telling me that Taika Waititi doesn't voice all IG-11 units because he should be, right?
Oh,
It's a voice program they put into any of the droids that came out in that model. So do a different IG-11. It's still Taika Waititi. There's all kinds of questions of why they're doing that. Hopefully it comes to fruition as something like meaningful. Because I think the main story is him going back to Mandalore.
Right.
And it's just odd that they use this IG-11 story first.
Yeah. Let's talk about the Bo-Katan of it all. Because I was like, we were talking about last night in the discussion. For me, it was just really interesting. We go to that planet, Kale Vale, as I was calling it. Kale Vale, I think it is. But, we go back there. We see this Mandalorian castle. Super badass. It looked like right out of, what was it, like not The Force Awakens, but what is it, The Last Jedi? One of those, where it's just this really badass, structure on the side of a cliff.
Yeah, what I liked is it reminds me of Vader's castles, because Vader's castle, which by the way, guys, is an excellent comic book. You guys should check that out. I kind of like that, and it takes me back to the idea that like Anakin, especially Obi-Wan Kenobi, but Anakin as well, had so much respect for the Mandalorians that of course he used their architecture as inspiration. It also has some Naboo look. Guess who's a big fan of Naboo?
Yeah.
So there's some like. So I do like how the Mandalorian being dope is something that we see in Darth Vader stuff. And so when I'm seeing a Mandalore castle, I think of Darth Vader stuff. It's like, but it's because Darth Vader was inspired by this, and that's just cool. It's like even Vader's suit is clearly, very Mandalorian kind of geared out with the,
Yeah, with the helmet and everything. Yeah, absolutely. It's like interesting seeing how they both influence each other in a way. Yeah, I know. And Vader's Castle is also in, it's not Last Survivor. Jedi Last Survivor is coming out pretty soon.
It's in Kenobi as well, version of it.
Yeah, definitely. But in that game, you actually go there and you get to fight your way through. And one of the fifth sisters, I think, is there from the Inquisitors. So it's badass. You get to
is
fight
it
one
the
of the
Fallen
Inquisitors.
Order?
Fallen Order, that's what it
That's
is.
the one.
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. You get to fight in that castle too, so it's so badass. But yeah, it's just cool. I'm interested to see how the Bo-Katan of it all will progress through the season because she
Yeah.
seems so deflated here. And yes, she loses the dark saber at the end of at the end of season 2, and and Jon Favreau has said he's come out and said, hey, it's been 2 years since he's gave up Grogu. I don't really like that time frame. I don't know. That's not my head canon, but if he says that's what it is, I'll have to try to change what my head canon is.
Yeah.
But she seems so deflated. For me, it makes it interesting in how is she going to be a worthy opponent to Mando through the season, being so deflated. And I know we were talking about maybe she's depressed and she lost the sword, she lost all of her troops, she's alone in that castle. But I don't know, it made me feel like, why wouldn't she just fight him right there to try to get it? Because I honestly, knowing what we know about Mando, he doesn't want to lead Mandalore. He probably would have been like, "You win. Here's the sword." It just seemed interesting, that interaction. So hopefully, that is foreshadowing something that's bigger coming down the line.
So I'm pulling up some dates here.
Mm-hmm.
First off, to kind of to respond to what you're saying, I think it's that. I think she expected her people to follow her because of who she is,
Right.
not because of the sword, and that part is deflating because she might be realizing that she's not the leader she thought she was. She might be she's going through a lot of self-evaluation right now, and
Mm-hmm.
she could straight up be depressed, which is something that she has no control over. So there's all kinds of reasons for that, but I agree with where she's at right now, because I get that. Like you you were leading people to a new glorious future for Mandor. They're in the winds right now because you don't have a freaking sword in your hand. That sucks. And so
Yeah.
now you're questioning, am I the right leader? Is Mandor worth saving? Are the Mandalorians, what are the Mandalorians? Because I'm shunning the Watch group, but they're sticking to our old school ways. Why? And the people over here are being bounty hunters. Is that who
Right.
we are now? So I think there's
Yeah.
so many questions she's going through right now in her mind,
No, yeah, I think you're totally right there. Because, yeah, she's like, wait, I couldn't keep my people. And when we're not following this strict creed, and these people who are following this strict, keep your helmet on all the time, you have to be this type of Mandalorian, they're seeming to stick together. And they're still, I don't know if they're thriving, but they're still around, and they're sticking together as a unit. Why are they able to do so where I'm kind of supposed to be like the better type of Mandalorian and I can't keep my people? So you're right. Yeah, I could see that being a huge letdown, and why she would also basically shit on everything that Mando is telling her.
Just to jump in real quick. I while we were talking, I Googled, because you were saying the 2 years are going to hit me.
Yes.
Why is it important that he said 2 years? Mandalorian takes place 4 years after the events of Return of the Jedi.
Right.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Guess what happens 6 years after Return of the Jedi?
Was it Force Awakens?
Force Awakens,
Ah,
which is where we're at right now.
there you go.
We are
Man,
six
Luke ages a
years.
lot in
Yeah.
those years.
That's a good point, actually. That's a really good point.
Yeah,
But yeah,
yeah. Luke goes from like young strapping guy to like shaggy beard hermit in like a very short time frame.
so let me clarify. Actually, the First Order rises.
First Order
years.
rise. Okay,
So
that makes
that's
sense.
a little different. That's a little different.
Yeah,
Okay.
because by the time the what is it? The Force Awakens, the First Order is well established,
Yeah.
and they're coming back in a big bad way. So yeah, you're right. Okay, that makes sense.
So while
I
we're
can
seeing,
buy that.
so that might be a season 4 Mandalorian storyline, is the rise of the First Order, which because the season
Dude.
1 we saw. I was pointing this out to somebody else, like, look how shitty the armor looks on the stormtroopers right now. It's because
Right.
the Empire's not polishing their armor anymore. They're out on their own, and so
Yeah.
now we're gonna start to see like this like uptake of like, oh no, it then put that together with the Rangers series, where they're trying to keep law, and all of a sudden like there's this new growing thing out here, which Paul Sung-Hung Lee references in his episode about like, we know there's something going on out here, and the Republic's too far away to realize it, and it's like it's because
yes.
the First Order is becoming a problem now, man. That's the future of the Mandalorian.
Damn it! Nicely done. We just figured that. You figured that out on the fly. That's great.
Google
Holy
it.
crap,
Gotta Google
man.
dates.
Dude, that's sweet. Okay, so that makes it a little bit better, and it would make sense. The other thing I was thinking was, man, if you showed up to this without watching Boba Fett, how did Mando get the ship? How is he back with Grogu? All that stuff is kind of confusing, but I think if you haven't watched Boba Fett, but if you have, you're like, okay, it seems pretty fat. Like, so in those 2 years, Mando made the armor, which he calls the shirt for Grogu.
Yeah.
He then gives it to Luke, and then Grogu flies back in the X-Wing and meets up with Mando on Tatooine for Boba Fett's final showdown. And all right, yeah, it's interesting again, but piecing it all together with those dates that you just clarified, that makes a ton of sense, and it makes me super hyped.
For those who are Star Wars super fans, Kevin, if you're listening and stuff like that, please let us know if you know what the Mandalorians were doing during the First Order's reign. Were they like fixing their planet, or were they joining a side? Because that would be very interesting to hear. Like, maybe we don't know what they were doing in this entire time. They were working with the pirates to fight the First Order. I'm just saying, like, if I were to freaking write this down as a script, that's what would be going on right now. Yeah. So that's awesome. Because we know the pirates help fight against the First Order. So did the Mandos help them? And
Are they part of the reason why the pirates show up? Dude, yes, that'd be so sweet.
Because I'm more hyped for Mandalorian than ever after this conversation.
Yeah. No doubt. And last thing I'm going to say is, in the beginning, when the armor is making that little helmet for the kid, I feel like it's foreshadowing for Grogu to eventually get his own helmet. So I'm just throwing it out there.
I'm throwing this out there, though.
Yeah.
He won't get that helmet until Mando
Din Djarin. Yeah, it's hard to say, man. It is.
Din Djarin, because there's a race in World of Warcraft that's the Darjins, and it's like throws it off a little bit for me. Anyways,
gotcha.
Grogu's not going to get his helmet until Mando recognizes the fact that he doesn't need to keep his helmet on all the time. You know what I'm saying?
Yes. I
because they
agree
gotta
with that.
sell toys.
Yeah.
Because you can't cover up this cute little baby Yoda face with a helmet all the time.
Right.
But if you were to sell a Funko Pop with Grogu wearing a Mando helmet, you'll bet your ass I'm getting the collector's edition over at Target.
Yeah, exactly.
So they got to be able to switch that helmet off and on a lot.
You're totally right. Yeah, and I think that is coming, because after he bathes himself in the baths of Mandalore, and he realizes, oh, well, I'm not any different. I didn't do anything different. Like, I'm not a different person anymore. Yeah. I think that's it. It's going to be this huge journey to go to Mandalore to take the bath, as Joey was saying, realizing that didn't change anything for him. It didn't make him a better person. It didn't make him a better Mandalorian. It didn't do anything. That's the realization. And then when he realizes that about himself, boom, we make Grogu a helmet. He gets to take it on and off.
Yeah.
Papa and Chow, they're on the road, like, killing bad guys.
Will they make ear holes, or make the helmet extend over his ears?
No, ears are going to stick out of the helmet.
Good.
Yes. 100%.
That is definitely World of Warcraft, because every time you play a troll in World of Warcraft, everybody knows that you got goofy ass ears sticking out, or all these badass helms you get.
Dude, I was so for it. It's going to look so cute.
Yeah,
like I said, with the big ears.
I'm gonna replace. I don't need this one anymore. I'll take that one away because he's from the First Order. He's the bad guy that was supposed to be something cool, but he ended up being nothing. That's where Grogu's gonna sit now.
Hell yeah, that's awesome.
Oh man, yeah. Let us know what you guys think of this. Let's go over some fun facts real quick. We went over these during the discussion, so please join the discussion, guys. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, well, it's definitely show up.
Calvella, which is the planet that Bo-Katan's sitting at, is actually in Finland. Is the name for a poem about a singing wizard and a sea monster. So we're trying to figure out, okay, what does that mean?
Right.
Sea monster. At first, I was thinking might have been reference to the turtle, alligator, or something we haven't seen yet. I think maybe you brought up that it could be one of the purgles, which we'll talk about in a sec, which are those like space whales that we saw in the hyperspace.
Yeah, that's true.
And
that was such an interesting scene.
Yeah. Which everybody online right now, that what I've been poking around this morning, are thinking that those are in reference to bringing back the kid from Rebels.
Shoot,
dang it.
what's his name?
They
I
make
had
a
it right at the tip of my
son
tongue.
a bitch. Clearly gonna need to watch some Rebels.
Yeah. Again, I started and I can't think of what it is right now. Let's move on to the next fact.
Yeah,
It'll come
okay.
to us.
Okay, so the shadowy figures, when they are traveling through hyperspace, are called purgles. They're massive space whales that travel through space and have the ability to travel at hyperspace. Here's another one. The first time a purgle is seen in live action scene, when Naboo starfighter is piloted through hyperspace. The very first introduction of them was in Star Wars Rebels, The Call from 2016.
Okay,
So
got
that's
it.
when we'll get our first one.
Got it. And I figured out what the character's
yeah.
name is. Ezra Bridger.
Here's the next fun fact. I should have just read this instead of having you Google that. The last time we see a Purgle is in the Rebels finale when Ezra Bridger and Grand Admiral Thrawn, which could be teasing to that too,
That's true.
are off on never seen again. So I believe this is before Rebels, right? This takes place before Rebels or after Rebels.
This show, I think this is before, right? Because
so Ezra's
there's
not
no
cool
rebellion.
at all yet. Then
So no, he's probably, I don't even know if he's born yet, to be honest. Like, because this happens right after the Last Jedi, no, Return of the Jedi, and so the Empire has just fallen. We haven't even seen the First Order pop up yet, so this is in between them. Rebel starts as the rebellion is growing, right?
yes, yeah. This is not the rebellion. The First Order is post rebellion. You're thinking Andor.
You're right, man. I'm getting so.
We need a timeline that we put up on our walls so that we could
Dude, no wonder. Yeah, no wonder it gets confusing. I think for the people who are even making it, because timelines feel like they're all over the place here.
So this I think is before Rebels. So Ezra might be like teased, like we saw with Princess Leia in Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Okay, yeah. So if it's before Rebels, he's not born yet. If this is way after. No, this might be around the same time. So Ezra is probably kicking around. Dang, man. He's out there. We might see some cool Ezra Bridger very soon.
Another reason to watch Rebels, guys, is they are for sure in the Ahsoka series coming up. We already have confirmed that Sabine from Rebels is in it. So
sick.
Yeah.
I mean, again, I've only seen one episode. Sabine is tight.
Yeah, she's definitely in Ahsoka. I'm sure most of the others will be as well. And Ahsoka's in Rebels, too. That's kind of the finale of her storyline over there. So,
nice.
I'll have to watch it.
Very cool. Yeah, I'm interested. I feel like Purgles are going to play like a big part in the storytelling.
Yeah.
Because they were that scene was so interesting. Not only was it showing Grogu, curling up on Mando like a dad, but also the way they highlighted the Purgles kind of flowing through hyperspace was so interesting. Yeah, I feel like that's going to be a big plot point this season.
Yeah, I like those moments too because it kind of shows the magic and wider world of the Force and of this world. We saw like in Clone Wars there are like these they're like Force beings and stuff like that. They're almost like the gods of the Force. Like so much lore that could be built up in here. They don't need to be super explored. We don't need a movie about them. But it's just kind of cool to think that there are whales in space that travel faster than hyperspace. Like that's freaking cool. Because I think it was totally passing up the Naboo fighter. I was like, oh, that's dope. Those things are quick.
Yeah.
By the way, that Naboo fighter, the fact that he's sleeping in the seat like that, the Wave Crest was a far more comfortable ship to actually live on than that thing.
That's so funny. After he saves all of the Mandalorians on the beach or the Watch people, and he opens the hatch, and you see the back of the seat. I'm like, that thing is so straight up and down. That cannot be comfortable for hours.
Yeah,
I'm like,
and like in the past one, he used to go to hyperspace and like, let me go sleep in the back. And now he's like, well, I'm here. So,
yeah, exactly.
As much as I think that ship is dope, it's not meant for the thing you live in. It's meant to go out, kill something, and come back.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yep.
That's such a cool scene in Phantom Menace when little Anakin's up there with that ship and him and R2-D2 are kicking ass. I love that thing.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
I like the prequels.
I know. I don't know why I liked episode 1, so I'm not ashamed to say it. I dug it.
I know that like everybody always kind of. I mean, I think it's also one of the greatest. I think it might be the greatest lightsaber battle ever. Is Qui-Gon Jinn, which is my favorite Jedi, and Obi-Wan Kenobi versus Darth Maul, which is one of my favorite villains.
Yes,
that might be the dopest ass battle ever. But people always talk about like, oh, they're actually more dancing and stuff like that. I'm like, yeah, but you know what? It's still as sick though. Like I get that it's super fluid versus like Vader and Obi-Wan, which are two old men hitting each other. And like, but like that one was inspired by samurais. This one's definitely much more inspired by like the Chinese ballets that you see. And like, I think it's so Bruce Lee, one of the biggest badass, dopest people ever, has many awards for his dancing competitions. He was a dancer before he was a fighter. That's because that's how you learned how to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, anybody who's done any martial arts, you can tell you like there's a certain rhythm to things, right?
Yes.
There's a timing to it, and you work your timing with movement, and yeah. So for sure, that's an important part. I don't know. I think it's one of the, again, to your point, is one of the most badass live action lightsaber battles for sure.
And the second place is, in my opinion, episode 3. Also in the prequels when they're on in the volcanic planet.
Yeah, that one's awesome. And then if you just think about Star Wars altogether, the only things I could say is like Clone Wars had some pretty badass lightsaber fights in it as well.
Oh man, Yoda versus Count Dooku, that thing was insane. And I bet you right now, if you guys think of lightsaber battle music, you're not thinking of anything from the original trilogy. You're thinking of that, dueling. Dun, 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 dun. Yeah, exactly. That thing is so freaking hype, man. That is so good. Man, that music gets me freaking fired up.
Absolutely. Yep. So right on. Well, an awesome start to the season. I can't wait for next week already.
So when is the discussion so people can tune in?
So the discussion is every Wednesday night. I think we're probably going to stick with the 8:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time start. But like I said, man, hey, it's super casual, just how me and Frank were talking here. It's open for you guys too, and we want to hear from you. So come in, let's all chat. If you got theories, if you got things you loved about an episode, if you got things that didn't make sense about the episode, dude, we want to hear from you. So please come check us out. It's CA Podcast Live on Twitter. We post the links every week, whether it's on Geek Freaks or Challenge Accepted or on Joystick Show. Come over there. We're going to be out there, and we just want to hear from you guys and chat it up.
Yeah. Push to shove, it's just us bullshitting the whole time. I'm cool with that too. And you guys can sit on it. You can talk if you want to. You don't have to talk. It's whatever you want.
Grab some food. It's basically hang out, potluck virtually.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, we will see you next time. We have much more to come. We have The Last of Us, I think, is our next thing on the docket. So get ready.
I'm ready.
We were busy around here, folks. I know.
Yeah.
Second to the last episode. No.
I know. It's too soon.
All right. We'll see you guys then.
All right. Hello, everybody.